All right, the Seneca Healthcare District Board of Directors regular meeting is now called to order at 3:06. Let's write our board members present. I'm sorry, we have Sherry's here, Rich is here, I am here. Ken will not be here since he is not feeling well today, and Ryan should be joining us after another meeting that he has, probably about 4 o'clock. All right, so let's go ahead and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, today we will be meeting in closed session pursuant to Government Code 54956.9D1, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, Velez versus SHD. Government Code, the same, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, Robles versus SHD, and Health and Safety Code 32106, reports involving trade secrets, Cerner Community Works implementation update. All right, that moves us into our public comment period. Do we have any public comment? Yes, go ahead, Shirley.
Oh, okay. If a person comes into a walk-in clinic and either you don't have a doctor on duty in that, and you send them over to the hospital for emergency, are they billed for what they were going to do originally at the walk-in, or do you bill them for emergency services?
You want to answer that?
Steve, do you have the answer for that? We did do some things at one time when we didn't have any. We're not, right?
I think what they do, Shirley, is the clinic will try and direct you to your care, if you will. What they'll say is, if you feel you need to be seen, the staff over here, that's here, the administrative staff, they say, if you feel you need to be seen, you can go over to the emergency room.
No, she brought her child over to a walk-in clinic, and it was closed, there was no doctor on duty or whatever, and they directed her over to the hospital. And
Okay.
she's waiting to get the bill to see if she's billed for a walk-in visit, or if they were charging her for an emergency room, because there was quite a difference in price.
Yeah. So typically someone will attempt to tell you that if you feel you need to be seen, then you can go to the emergency room. But if not, you can defer your care, whether you're gonna come back to the walk-in when we have a provider. What we will do is if someone feels that they were seen in the emergency room and it was basically a clinic visit, we will review the account for appropriateness. But if they're seen in the emergency room, it will be billed as an emergency room visit.
Yeah, she's gonna see about getting a copy of her billing, just
Yeah.
double check, because she doesn't have a doctor, because, everyone's so short-handed. And the doctors can't take all the patients,
They can't.
they can't,
It's a problem.
although they should.
Okay,
But,
but again, if she feels that it was essentially a clinic visit, especially if the folks here said, go to the emergency room, because I believe the language we try to use, and when they put up the signage, it does give you the option. It says, if you feel you need to be seen, we don't want you to not go. If you're concerned, you'll go. But if it really turns out that you go to the emergency room and they look at you and say, wow, this is a basic care matter, then we will look at the bill. The problem is we didn't provide the service, so we need to bill it. What we look at is what is the patient's responsibility afterwards. So if you come to the clinic, you have maybe a $20 copay or whatever it might be. But if you go to the emergency room, you have a much higher
That's what she's
responsibility.
concerned about.
And we will look at that, and we will discount some of those matters, some of those cases where we think it's appropriate that the patient should not be paying for that.
Because she doesn't have a regular doctor here anymore, so she goes to the clinic.
And then if they don't have insurance at all, that's another one, but we will work with you on that one, with folks on that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so
And along the, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so it sounds like, advise her to, when she gets her bill, if she doesn't feel like if it's over what she's expecting, then contact us. And we'll see if we can work something out.
I think all bills are over what I'm expecting.
Yes, that's
That's
true.
where to go, right?
Okay. I will And I don't use her name because she didn't give me permission.
Right.
That's
Thank you.
perfect. Thank you. Did you have something you wanted to add?
I just think that, yeah, we did have a period of time, Shirley, where we had unexpectedly, literally everybody out of the clinic, to quite beyond our control. Just so, we try to keep it staffed to a certain degree, even if we are a little low, at least there's someone that can be seen, right? But we did have an instance where we had unexpectedly every single provider out of the clinic. So we did have a
How many
period
do you have in the clinic on a daily basis?
for,
So there's 4 on duty all the time.
well, there's 4 that are scheduled, so 2 do not take any more patients, 2 have closed practices. We've got Dr. Schilling, who's wide open, he's a locum, he's replaced Dr. Russo, so he takes patients. And then the walk-in is always open unless unexpectedly we have a provider that simply can't come here, and that was the instance.
I also wondered because on here, we have Dr. Cooper here still. He hasn't been here for a while.
I don't know what you're holding up.
Yeah,
It's the,
it's our statistics, Shirley, and it's for
Yeah,
a period of time. It presents the current fiscal year. I don't know if it's this month, so it's February of 20.
February, yes.
Yeah, so when it compares it to February of 2022. So
That's why.
Dr. Cooper was here through June of 22.
Yeah, I like this because I like to see how the hospitals do.
Yeah, it's a good document. It's just, it does get confusing because the providers change. And so sometimes we need to explain it a little bit.
We're working on that, Shirley, trying to get stable providers.
I'm still trying to write down what you said about her checking on.
Any other public comment? Did anything come in over email? Okay. Any public comment online?
I have none online, Jerry.
Thank you, TK.
Thank you, Shirley.
Thank you, Shirley. All right, let's move on. First up for items requiring action is approval of our board meeting minutes. We have our board packet, our meeting minutes. There were a few minor changes that didn't get incorporated into that final draft that are marked in red on this other document that we just handed out. They're pretty minor. So if the board is okay with it, I'd like to accept a motion to approve our minutes.
I move we approve the minutes as amended.
Thank you, Rich. Do I have a second? Thank you. All in favor, Rich?
Aye.
Carrie? Aye. And I'll vote aye. Thank you. All right, next up is our candidate for board member vacancy. We have Shelley here. Thank you for coming back, Shelley. And included in our board packet again is her letter of interest that she had submitted previously and her qualifications. I am very, very excited that you decided to throw your hat back in the ring because I think your clinic experience would be very helpful. We lost that when we lost Dr. Walls, so it'd be very helpful to have that on board. Yeah. I will mention to the board members that late yesterday, we did receive one other person express interest, Liz Steffen. But it was too late to get on the agenda for an interview or anything like that. So the only way to review that would be if we were to put off making this decision, which personally, I think we have a very strong candidate here and I think we should move forward. And I did speak with Ken about this as well, and he agreed, so.
And we obviously do not need to question her again.
No, if you have any additional questions, but I didn't want to go through and make her go through that whole process all over again.
No, I move approval of your appointment to the board.
Thank you, Sherry. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, Sherry?
Aye.
Thank you, Rich.
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. So we will get you
Welcome.
sworn in before our next special meeting. And Deborah will get you all the board information. Thank you. Welcome.
Welcome aboard.
All right, so that takes us down to number 9. And the reason why I had included this for today was because with Ryan leaving, we no longer have a vice president. So what I was wanting to discuss with you all was if Sherry would be amenable to accepting a nomination as vice president, and then we would make Shelley assistant secretary treasurer since she's brand new, but you've run meetings before. So I was hoping you might be willing to do that.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, so do I have a nomination for
I
Sherry?
move that Sherry Throw be the vice president.
I will second that. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Perfect. And then assuming we leave the rest of the positions the same, president, treasurer, secretary, everyone okay with that?
Good call.
Well, we all vote.
I don't see everybody wanting to be president.
Okay.
And you're doing a wonderful job.
So I think since we had already voted previously on the other officers, we probably don't have to vote again, right? Okay, but I think we do need to vote to make Shelley Assistant Secretary Treasurer, so. if
So I move that Shelley's going to take my place and be secretary treasurer.
Okay, thank you, Sherry. Second,
Second.
thank you. All in favor, Rich?
Aye.
Sherry?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye, thank you.
Do we, point of order, do we really have to vote or is it your choice?
I double checked the bylaws and we're actually supposed to vote on all of the positions.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the old
Stand
bylaws,
corrected.
yeah, I think the old bylaws said we had to appoint the Assistant Secretary Treasurer
Yeah,
that I
that's-
did,
and the
and the
treasurer.
treasurer, but the current ones say that we board, as a board, need to elect. So I double
Okay.
checked them after you mentioned that last time. All right, let's move on. Our medical staff report. So we have initial appointments, reappointment for medical staff. Looks like we have appointments for the March and April medical staff meetings. Can we take those together as a group?
Yes.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the medical staff
So
appointments?
moved.
Thank you.
Second,
Second, thank you, Sherry. All in favor, Sherry?
aye.
Rich?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. All right, next is policies and procedures. Everyone
My
had-
favorite chapter.
I know. Eventually they'll get smaller. Does anyone have any questions, comments for any of the policies or procedures?
No.
No? Sherry?
No,
I'm good too. I'll accept a motion to approve.
move approval.
Thank you, Sherry.
Second.
Thank you, Rich. All in favor, Rich?
Aye.
Sherry?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. All right, Steve, you're up for our finance report for February.
You
Oh, you just
stepped
might leave? He's the one that just left. Okay, we'll skip that for now, and we'll skip HRG for now. Donna, do we have you on the line?
I am here.
Hi, Donna. So
Hi
we're gonna, or actually, Steve just came back.
Go back up.
Hold that thought, thank you.
You guys got through all the policies that fast?
We did, aren't you impressed? All right, it is your turn.
So, okay. We got running the video here.
TK's running it. TK, do you mind pulling up the financial? Oh, she got it.
We have the crosshairs on. Okay, we're talking about the month of February 2023, 8th month of our fiscal year. This is our third month closing accounting month with MultiView, our new financial accounting system. We're getting the upper hand with MultiView finally. February was a little more logical in closing out with getting the expenses into the appropriate period. And we think March will be much better and April should be business as usual. So I have to present the quarterly report to Oshpod, which is through March 31st. That's due with them by May 15th. So there's a really good chance that we could have March and April for the May board meeting, but done promising, way things are. So for the month of February, we had a net loss of just over $360,000 versus a budgeted loss of $464,000. And I'm sorry, our new board member? Shelley. So those numbers sound really kind of gruesome, you know, those losses, but there's a uniqueness to the way that our operations are financed through the state and Medi-Cal program. And when you're ready, I can have you come in and I'll run you through kind of the nickel tour through our finances and show you how this works. But we basically incur losses, and then Medi-Cal provides what's called a supplemental payment to us through a couple different programs, and it brings us whole. But it's just the timing of receiving those payments that will incur losses. And that's why we budget for the loss we do. And so when we have less of a loss than we budgeted for, that's a good month. So, but it certainly, those numbers in and of themselves would not be sustainable. So, and the variance was due to a few things. In the month of February, we had really low inpatient utilization. We had 4 inpatient days, no swing beds. The nursing home went above 13, so for a period of time we had 14 residents, but we also received a rate increase from Medi-Cal, so approximately $100 a day, and so you'll see that it's positive. The dollars are positive for the month, 287 versus 252, but the census was slightly below what we budgeted for, and it was really due to that rate increase from Medi-Cal. So overall, inpatient revenue was below budget, about 185,000. Outpatient was positive to budget, 116,000, which was a net gross patient revenue negative variance of just under $69,000. Adjustments to revenue, small negative variance. So overall, net patient revenue had a negative variance of 78,000. Expenses, we had a overall positive variance of $43,000. Our W-2, our employed labor cost wages were above budget by 17,000, but our contract labor was under budget by 28,000. On the first page, there's a summary of how that came out as far as FTEs. We're slightly above our employed FTEs at 102.66 versus 100.75. And our average hourly wage was right about the budget. Contract labor, the FTEs were 7.35 versus 8.9. And the average hourly wage on contract labor was slightly below budget at 92.81 versus 96.21, which reflects a higher use of contract labor in the skilled nursing area, which is CNAs and LVNs. We did receive a second payment from the Lake Almanor Foundation for the fundraising efforts you all did with the programs over the past year. We received a payment of just over $136,000, so we had not budgeted for that, and so it created a positive variance of $135,000. Bottom line led to the positive variance of $104,000. Couple comments. Our cash did go down. Our days cash on hand went from 207 to 178. The big driver of that was just discussing here. We made the intergovernmental transfer portion of the Medi-Cal supplemental payments, where we put out $1.4 million, and we will receive back just about $4.5 million total off of those two programs. In March and April, we received the payments on the QIP program, totaling about $1,168,000. We received the first installment this week on the first payment from the first plan. There are two plans that we work with for the Medi-Cal rate range of 2.3 million, and the final payment will come in. We'll just have just over $1 million from the other plan, and then we'll be whole for the year on our supplemental payments. Any questions on all of this?
I was just gonna ask, I meant to ask when we were discussing the other day, where on our balance sheet are we seeing our donations?
We're not,
Okay,
unfortunately. This is back in February. So what Jerry's talking about is that we are going to present, and I'll start with April. What we'll present is the amount that people have donated for the new hospital bill. And currently, oh my goodness, I wrote that on the other piece of paper, how about that? It's, we have just over $270,000. And what we agreed to do is we'll put that in we have a savings account and an operating checking account with Plymouth Bank. And we'll put all of the new hospital donations in the savings account and just leave that as, just leave that there.
and then
Leave that will-
we're gonna create another line
Right.
item?
I'm sorry.
I was just wondering where we're gonna show it in here. so
Well, what
it's
we'll
easy.
do is we'll change, TK, could you pop to page 4 of 7, please? Hey, there we go. Okay, so in the third quadrant down there,
Mhm.
you can see the big red 616 number. Just below that is where we've separated funds that have a particular designation other than just for general operating purposes. Right now, we have a line that's called facility capital, which is the amount that's been designated by the board for capital purchases. The other line that we have there, board restricted funds, is we just kind of created a rainy day fund a while back and just have been putting, every time we earn interest on our LAIF account, we just put it in there, so it's just been building. So I think we're going to take that second line, and that's where we'll put, it doesn't matter, it could be one or the other, but we'll use one of those two lines for the donations so that it'll stand out. Right now, the donations actually sit up in short-term investments because it's in the savings account.
I think, board members, do we want to have a line item so we can see specifically how much
Oh, I think
donations?
going
have come in?
forward, we really need
I
that.
think so too.
The other question I'd have for you, Steve, is you're talking about putting the 270,000 that we have now in donations
Yes,
into a savings account at Plymouth Bank.
that's correct.
Have you thought about investing that in CDs?
Yeah,
Or, I don't know what LAIF is paying. I know it's not, doesn't pay real big, but it's pretty liquid.
it's not doing
So-
badly. It's a 2.87% right now, so it's.
Because I'm
decent.
thinking we
It's not
probably,
what you can get out there. I did look when I was at Plymouth Bank the last time. It is a little disappointing because Plymouth Bank, we have a savings account, it's only paying 0.25%.
that's why I'm asking.
Whereas,
That savings account can be linked to Treasury Direct,
okay,
pays over 5%.
they said I can't do it through them.
Well, then US Bank can do it.
Everybody's telling me no, but
But still, I think we could
likewise at
do
US Bank, we could.
CDs or, even a 1-year CD. I doubt seriously
You
we're
think-
gonna tap into this.
You can get a 4-week or 8-week
Yeah,
Treasury bill.
sure.
We may have to look, because the other thing is that Plymouth Bank has a program right now for CDs or money markets where they'll give you a good rate, 4% or something like that, but it has to be new money.
Money that's not already in there.
Mhm.
Yeah, I saw that myself. I was all excited till I read that.
Everybody's trying to
But,
beef up their balance sheet, but,
but
so I
then,
will look into that, and I'll talk to Tracy Smith too, and see if there's anything that they could do, because even just a CD through them, I could probably get 2% or something.
anything's better than what they pay on a basic savings account.
Yeah,
And since it's money that we don't anticipate needing to spend in the real immediate future,
In the near term, yeah.
it would be better to have it grow a little bit, I think.
now, US Bank is offering a money market account. We have our payroll account with US Bank. And right now, they're offering a money market account 3.75%. But that'll fluctuate as rates,
Come and
whatever they go.
go.
If they go down, they're gonna hit it.
So I will look into that, look into a better investment option for, and Treasury Direct.
I had a quick question regarding the two Medi-Cal health plans. What are those plans?
Currently, it's California Health and Wellness and Anthem Blue Cross, effective January 1st of 2024. It'll be Partnership Health Plan.
Very familiar with partnership.
Yeah.
We have a large capitated, partnership membership.
They currently, we currently have a contract with them for the hospital, but not the clinic. And they also are the plan for some of our long-term care residents as well, so.
So I think, Steve, perhaps you, Rich, and I need to review the investment policy again.
Absolutely.
And maybe we can come up with some
100%.
recommendations for either for our next meeting or for our June meeting. Does that sound
I like that.
reasonable?
Yeah.
Okay. Does that work, Steve?
Very much so.
Okay, thank you. Okay, other questions, comments for Steve?
So while we're here, just briefly, I wanted to go through a couple things.
Sure.
TK, can you go to 7 of 7? Okay, so this is the document that Shirley was looking at. And just show you how, TK, can you just creep up like one little creep? There you go, perfect. That's it. So when we present our statistics, the statistics are the first column on the left. Then the first column in with numbers is the current month, which in this case is February of 2023. Then we compare it to last month, which is January of 2023. And then we also compare it to the prior year month. So the current month for last year, which is February of 2022. Then we also do a year-to-date comparison. The first column is our fiscal year-to-date, is July 2022 through February of 2022. February 2022 through February of 2023. But to get a year-over-year comparison, we do July of 2021 to February of 22. And that's why down below under the Lake Almanar clinic visits, we'll list all of the providers that had visits in any of this data. And so in the case of Dr. Cooper Physician Office, Dr. Cooper had visits in the last column 21 to 22. And then current year, it's just been a physician office where we had Dr. Backup, Dr. Russo, now Dr. Snelling. Below that is the currently open office. In the prior year, what would we have? Let's see, the 47. And then we've had a small amount in this current year. Then of course we have Dr. Ware and Dr. Walls. The walk-in clinic, which is before we, and Steve Hayden and all this, so it's walk-in, Steve Hayden. Well, occasionally we'll have a fill-in in there, but and then specialty other, which is mainly Dr. Jensen. So can you go, any questions about that? DK, can you go two more pages down? The second one of one at the end. Next one. Okay, so this is where some confusion came because someone was trying to map the visit statistics on the document we just went through to the analysis of the professional fees. And we realized that the way that we were doing the descriptions led to some confusion. So what I did is I added a little note underneath the detail and summary of our physician fees, provider fees, that the contracted physicians is Dr. Walls, Dr. Ware. ED physicians, we pay them a fee for doing hospitalist services, so inpatient rounding, observation care. And then we include the telemedicine psychiatrist. Locums providers could be either a physician or a mid-level provider. And the walk-in clinic is the walk-in clinic. Then the telemedicine at the bottom is our licensed clinical social workers or psychologists. So that's just a little change there to the presentation.
That makes sense, Steve.
That was compliment Steve gave. So, and that presentation is compliments jury. So, thank you. And I do take recommendations because these documents evolve, and I'll get recommendations on what to include or how to present it, and I'm very open to hearing what makes sense to you all. So, thanks.
Thank you, Steve. Any other questions or comments for Steve? No? Okay, then I will accept a motion to accept the February draft financial report.
I so moved.
Second,
Thank you. All in favor, Sherry,
yes.
Rich,
Aye.
and I'll vote aye. Thank you. All right, Steve, I think we're still with you for HRG.
So we just continue to have creep on our AR, creep being growth in our AR, and again, it's all in the Medi-Cal, it's all in the long-term care.
But it looks like our unbilled went up.
Came back down in April.
Okay, okay. Good to
Yeah,
know.
we're February.
So the long-term care, again, a couple things that are going on there. They're just being very difficult, and that includes partnership. Partnership's not without some challenges here. Really, the biggest thing, and it's just absolutely when we get with Cerner, is it'll all be electronic billing. We got stuck in a situation where we had to send paper claims, and they're able to do basically what they want with it. They're able to, say we didn't receive it, we didn't, we have 30 to 45 days to do it, and we're in that situation. We're not going to remedy it under evident, but we're staying on it. A couple other things is the treatment authorization request, the TARS. That's always a challenge. I don't know, they can just deny those if they want to, and then we have to, it takes us a while to do it, it takes us a while to submit it. The last thing is we are starting to see the conversion of long-term care residents. Medi-Cal is moving all of the long-term care residents into managed care. So they're moving from traditional Medi-Cal into, right now, California Health and Wellness or Anthem. And neither one of these groups, either they don't or they're saying they don't, I don't believe they do, don't have experience with long-term care. One of the first things that they'll try and do is they'll say, you have to build Medicare first. And we say, no, you don't, because this is a non-benefited service, this is a non-covered service. Well, they want to get a denial from Medicare first. So you go around and around, and we'll get through it. So we're starting to see some payments. There was a random assignment of one of our residents to an out-of-area managed care program, and we finally got them back into one that's associated with our county, but it appears that, unless we want to just fight it, we're going to have to eat the month of March. So we will try, but so anyway, this is not something that gives us great concern. We wish it wouldn't happen, but we will get it. There's no doubt.
How much are we talking about potentially eating, as you put it?
It's 1 month, and so it's about $15,000. I told Sarah Lynn, cost of doing business, it's ridiculous what they can do.
But going forward, we don't expect to have the
Well,
same.
now that the resident is on California Health and Wellness or whichever one they got on, then we're fine. Yeah, as I said, if we can get them on the right plan and get it approved, you know, we just more or less move on. It's a shame, but it's the way it goes. So anyway, that's all we can do. But it's not like the stuff that's sitting there. You know, we know we have people that have approved Medi-Cal. We know they have long-term care Medi-Cal. It's just a matter of getting the payer to process the claim and pay it. So it's not like we're hanging out there for 6 months, 8 months with unapproved Medi-Cal. We know they have it. And Medi-Cal will go back in retro on
That's good to know.
claims. So I think we're okay. The other stuff is pretty well in line. So not a lot of worries there.
Thank you. Anyone have questions, comments on the HRG report? No? Sherry?
No.
Sorry?
I'll wait till I can visit.
Okay, okay.
Clearly, we got a few things, the electronic submission is something that we really are looking forward to. Because you can validate whether they receive, so there's not a lot of shenanigans there.
It's hard.
And then the
to-
transition to partnership will be something we really want to watch.
Yeah. And that's supposed to happen at the beginning of the year, right?
24, yeah.
Okay.
Well, today, that's the timeline today. They still haven't negotiated the rates with the state.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna have hospital and
Clinic,
clinic risk.
LTC.
All right, thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, Donna, are you still there for our Affordable Access Hospital report?
I am.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
All righty. So if you want to pull up, that's perfect. Thank you. Okay, so starting with an overview of updates on the various topics here. The sequence document, as it relates to the Seneca Healthcare Board of Directors approval as the lead agency, the public comment closed on April 6th. We only received one letter, that was from the Department of Transportation related to signage, the limitation of, or the disallowment of specific signage on Highway 36. And the second part of the comment was related to drainage from our site to the highway. We were able to meet with the Department of Transportation, go over those questions and come up with a solution that allowed us to incorporate their concerns via a clarifying mitigation measure within the document. And so we have received confirmation from the Department of Transportation that they are happy with the way that was addressed. So that, along with the approval of the Airport Land Use Commission on April 19th, saying that they are in unanimous support of the project, we are set for our May 4th scheduled Board of Directors meeting to review the initial study mitigated negative declaration, as well as mitigation management plan, so that the board can review and aim to adopt that document. And then subsequently, there's another resolution that is coming your way for approval from the board to proceed into construction of the project. So all that is coming on May 4th. All the information just got to Deborah for distribution. And so I know she's buttoning everything up, and we'll get that to you shortly so that the Board of Directors has a week to review that prior to that May 4th meeting. Any questions on that?
Sounds good, Donna, thank you.
Okay. Next steps after that, assuming if the board does approve the adoption of the ISMND, it then goes on to the county. The planning commission, additional to what's in this written report, I found out yesterday/today that the county is also bringing this document in concept to the planning commission also on May 4th. So not for any kind of approval, but just to update the planning commission as to what's happening and what's in the document. Still planning on the public hearing and recommendation to the Board of Supervisors scheduled for May 18th. We backing up the item here a little bit. We did get all the letters, the feedback that we would expect to get from the tribes, and we are set to do that that May 18th review by the Planning Commission, followed by Board of Supervisors on June 6th and June 13th. Following that action, the document goes to LAFCO. LAFCO is working with the county to get the tax sharing information finalized such that we would then go to the LAFCO board on July at a special meeting that we're aiming for July 10th to have that special meeting for the annexation into the Chester Public Utility District for the parcel and project. So that's where we are with CEQA. With NEPA, we have provided USDA a draft categorical exclusion with a report that we're asking for some feedback from them on just some logistical items. And so we're trying to get that information to them so that we can get a formal document submitted to them for their review and approval. This is something that is, we have to, I will aim, and our team will aim to stay on top of USDA. This is something that we need their approval in order to start the timber operations on the project, to remove the trees that we need to remove in order to do the project. So right now, this is out there, if you will, as a something we're tracking and pushing on, and needs to be completed in order to start the work on site.
And Donna, do we have any sense for the timing for this?
Really don't. I haven't gotten any response from USDA other than my initial email. He did reply saying they're routing it for input, but I haven't been able to get any further feedback as to what that feedback is or the associated timing.
Okay, thank you.
Heliport, I've included in the documentation for the board an updated MOU with some changes as was discussed with Collins Pine, trying to make sure that the MOU is clear in that we're not asking or anticipating for trees to be removed until at such time that the approvals are obtained. And so the document that was provided, I don't know if we want to switch over to that, TK, as one of the other exhibits, but it has the language in it, and we have gotten legal feedback on that, such that we can proceed with getting this also to Collins Pine for their review with this change. Wanted to make sure the Seneca board has this as well, to make, since you guys had reviewed the previous version, and wanted to make sure you had the updated version with that language that was requested by Collins Pine. We have a meeting set with Collins Pine for walking the site next Tuesday, 7 a.m. to go through what trees are looking at needing to be removed on their site. And making sure that everyone's on board with what that need is by looking firsthand at those trees.
And CAL FIRE is going to be at that walk as well, right?
That's a separate walk. So then, so that's 7 a.m. on Tuesday with Collins Pine. And then related to the harvest plan, we have, so the next item, we have also on Tuesday at 8 a.m., we're doing a pre-harvest investigation, the PHI, or inspection rather, so that CAL FIRE can complete their review of the project so that they can aim at approving the timber conversion plan.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And yeah, are we anticipating this MOU to come for board approval at our next meeting, or do we not know yet?
I don't know yet. I think that definitely not the 4th, potentially the 25th, if I can get some good movement, starting with that May 2nd meeting with Collins Pine.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
So that covers the and so for the heliport also, we'll be sending out an email to 3 potential consultants asking for a statement of interest for both finishing the design as well as getting all the regulatory approvals for that heliport design and construction. Harvest plan. So as we said, that CAL FIRE is in the process of reviewing our application, of which the pre-harvest inspection is the next step. Again, scheduled for May 2nd at 8 a.m. And from there, I've outlined what the timeframes are, and that we are, this is another, so I've referenced NEPA as a hot schedule button, as well as this one's a hot schedule button that we're tracking closely, aiming to get CAL FIRE's approval by mid-May so that we can, mid-June, so that we can then get the timber harvest going at that time in mid-June. So also on this summary is that information that we're working to get the RFP out to the licensed timber operators, releasing beginning of next week, with resulting on-site works, again, starting the middle of June. No update on Wildwood easement from what has previously been reported. Financing, the next.
Donna, sorry, real quick, I accidentally covered up my microphone. So then there's basically, if I'm understanding right, there's 3 key pieces that have to happen before we can do groundbreaking, right? So we have the NEPA, and then CAL FIRE, and then we have to have the timber company contracted.
Well,
Yeah,
and approval by the board.
Items.
Yes, and approval by the Board of Supervisors. Okay.
Yes, you've got it. You've got it.
Commission, Board of Supervisors, CAL FIRE, and the MOU.
And NEPA.
NEPA.
Okay. Thank
Yeah,
you.
and of course, having all the consultants on board, one of the items for CEQA, one of the mitigation measures for CEQA is doing a biological floristic study or review of the site. And so we're also working on that RFP to go out beginning of next week so that we can get the biological consultant so that they can start at the beginning of June. So I anticipate that I will have for the board review, the recommended biological consultant to do that work that would start at the beginning of June, and as well as the recommendation for the licensed timber operator to do the tree removal at the middle of June.
Are we expecting, Sean, those to be above your threshold for signing?
I think that the awarding the RFP for the timber harvest will be above my 25.
Okay.
I think that the biological, what do you think about the biological? It'll be under It's gonna be bright.
I am not sure yet on that one. Where that's gonna fall. I think it's likely that it's under, but nonetheless, we will, bring it to the board next month for review if not approval.
And frankly, if we, ever hit our timelines, we really gotta, this spring's very busy. So in order to hit our timelines, that we have to do a special board meeting
Yeah, that was where I
to
was.
approve these. If they're over my threshold, then by all means, we're gonna do that so that we don't get delayed.
Okay. Do you have any question? No. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Donna.
Okay. Financing, shortly you're going to get a presentation from Fieldman Rollup on the proposed funding and associated schedule as it stands now. And then also at next month's board of directors meetings, and in addition to those two contracts that I'll be looking to have before you, I'm anticipating having a better idea of the cost exposure for this first phase of approval to the contractor to do grading, site work, and be able to order any long lead items for equipment such as generators or boilers, any of the long lead items that we know we need to get ordered. That total number that we're looking at will be brought to the board next month so that you guys can see, based on what Fieldman Rollup is presenting, where that money is anticipated to come from and what the value of that is.
So let me segue for a second. Rich, what she's talking about right now, that sounds to me like maybe finance committee might want to review all of that information before bringing in all of that to the full board next month.
That's a good idea.
So we should probably schedule up finance committee meetings in May before our board
Yes.
meeting. Okay. We'll make sure we do that.
Just for the May meeting, are we not, I'm trying to remember from our last meeting that we are going to potentially bring the award for the underwriter on May, was it May? Jason?
That's right.
May. So yeah, for our underwriter, I believe that the board is going to be looking to approve the underwriter as well in May. So it's a busy May meeting. It's May, right? I think it's end of May.
I had that the idea of where we were heading was going to be brought in May, but the actual resolution of issuance was going to be in August. Jason, am I off on that?
That is correct. We're looking at still having the resolution of the issuance in August, but the selection of the underwriter will happen earlier.
Okay, sorry.
Selection earlier, but yeah, the resolution will be in August. Yes.
Okay.
So Donna, we'll have to talk about when you think we'd have the information compiled to be able to have that finance committee meeting. So we can probably figure out that date later.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I know that Bolt is aiming for May 19th to get that to me. So let's talk about how we need to lead up to the board meeting next month.
Thank you.
Alrighty. USDA financing, we've referenced the NEPA above. Examine forecast is proceeding with Whippley, looking to complete middle of May, and the PAR is moving ahead. We've got input from the design build entity on that. Just waiting to finalize the exterior look of the building a little bit more completely in order to incorporate those into the PAR, and then I think we'll be able to have that ready. I would guess probably we're looking at getting the exterior elevations completed mid-May, and so we should be able to get the PAR in mid to late May. And then also working on all the required forms for the USDA financing.
And will we have renderings of the revised exterior, interior, so the board can review?
Yes, we've asked for renderings as we get further along in completion for both the interior design and the external design. We are going to put together renderings, both digital renderings and 3D for future community interests, and so the board can take a look at it.
Yes.
We have asked.
So we know what it looks like now.
Yeah. it's changed.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Other funding philanthropy discussions are ongoing, and we have, as was reported previously, submitted the federal community project funding application, federal earmarks, and awaiting feedback on that. Also, no update on the Senate Bill 395 funding, but that is also out there as potential financing for the project. The schedule, no update from the March meeting, and similarly, no update on the budget. We're tracking on both of those as reported and at previous meetings and in this document. Still looking at first patient Q1 2026, still looking at a total overall project budget of $72 million. Schematic design completed the week of April 10th, and final documentation of that design was received this week. We've had all continued great input from administration and staff. We are continuing with design development. We had our first design development meeting for equipment today, and we'll have it continue tomorrow. And then next week, we're continuing with design development for the architectural side of things, building design exteriors. I'm sorry, let me back up. Design team is coordinating with the county to get a site package in middle of May. We're doing a separate package, 2 separate packages to HCI, one for building design exteriors and one for interiors. The exteriors anticipated to go to HCI in July, and the interiors anticipated to go for permit in November or December. Medical equipment planning, Introbas, as I indicated, continuing with the equipment planning meetings with the users, aiming, focusing first on the larger architecturally significant equipment, but we're going through everything, just making sure that we're getting everything aligned to the new updated design as it relates to equipment. And then I added a construction line item here just to make sure that the board's aware of a groundbreaking ceremony that Chelsea and Sean are working on to plan for mid-June. More info to come on that, but just wanted to make sure the board was aware of that was coming down the pipe.
I think one thing for mentioning, Donna, is that we have had conversations with CPUD around the SNS sewer and water. So the engineers are connecting the dots on those things so that we understand the annexation and the connection to the city.
Correct.
Yeah, CPUD.
Correct. And we've gotten great feedback from Alan and Adam over there with confirmation that they're comfortable that we'll be able to figure that all out.
Now, how confident are we that we think mid-June is going to be when we want to do this?
Really confident.
Well, partly why I ask is Rich has a conflict around that time.
Well, you know, we've looked around, you know, the week of the 15th, the week of the 22nd. We'd like to do it the week of the 15th because we believe that the timber harvesters are going to be ready to go. And what we'd like to do is lead right off of the ceremony directly into to cut a tree down, right? We actually want to, you know, gentlemen, start your engines when the things start coming down kind of thing. But it really depends on the RFPs, the response, whether or not we can time it with the harvester, with the person that's going to do the harvesting. So it's kind of in flux right now, but we're aiming for the middle of June because that's when we really need to start dropping trees.
Definitely. In order to maximize summer consumption is always the goal that we're looking at.
So we're working on the ceremony now, though. Let's get ahead of it.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments for Donna?
You know, I just want to thanks Donna. You do such a great job of summarizing. It's obvious there are so many swim lanes, simultaneous swim lanes happening here that this is really the conglomeration in the next probably 2 months all the activity that we've been doing for over a year and a half. It's just, yeah, so it's coming to fruition right now. So there's not a lot of, I think we're gonna make it. I really do. I have good, I think that the county things are all ironed out pretty much, and it's a matter of just making sure that we keep all the other things moving forward. And Donna's done a great job of herding cats.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you,
It's
Donna.
definitely herding kitties.
All great cats. Thank you.
Donna.
Thank you, Donna.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have,
Can I
yes,
interrupt real quick?
yes.
She did put in the MOU that she was going to be discussing following directly after her report.
Oh, she discussed it during,
Yeah.
Okay,
but thank you.
I'm sorry, I
No,
stepped out.
no, it's okay. Thank you
Okay,
for
sorry
following
about
up. No, it's fine. Okay, so I think, Jason, you want to grab a chair and bring it on up? Thank you. So
Oh, great, we have it up. on the
Fieldman
screen.
roll-up finance plan overview.
Thanks, Steve.
Welcome.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon. It's great to be here again. So back in January, our team presented the draft finance plan for the funding of the critical access hospital. We're just back here for you again this afternoon to provide another information-only update on the plan of finance. So a lot of it will be familiar to you. And on slide 2, we have the estimated total budget project cost of $72 million. And with the $7 million equity contribution that the district has already provided, those funds are projected to last until around October 1, 2023. And so prior to that date, the district has a few financing options that will cover the remaining $65 million of costs. The bulk, of course, will be covered by Measure B, the general obligation bond approved by our voters in November. And that can provide around $40.5 million safely in projects. And since Measure B is that general obligation bond, those are those payments that are entirely repaid by your taxpayer community. So the district's operational funds are not used for payment on that bond. The remaining cost, $24.5 million, that can be covered through a district-funded debt obligation, and it's commonly called a certificate of participation lease, or abbreviated as a COP. And since this form of debt is not incurred by the community never voted for it, the district has a lot more flexibility on when it can issue. You really just need to have your governing board approve a resolution of issuance and have the proper documentation. And so the timing of these two separate borrowings is still being finalized, but once we enter into either debt issuance, the payments will begin to start immediately on a semi-annual basis. So you don't want to enter into a debt too soon, sooner than you need to. And so we've staggered so far these financings to have the GEO bond issued prior to this October 1 to get you the required funding to carry you through your project schedule, and then the COP to be issued around fourth quarter of fiscal 2025 to complete the funding. And so the team has also continued that loan application with USDA, and having this approved application will give us a lot of flexibility as far as managing those long-term future payments on both your GEO bond and your COP to keep it as low as we can for your taxpayer community and your operations. And so USDA's terms are very favorable. However, they do require that certificate of occupancy, which we will not get in 2023, we won't get in 2024. So in the meantime, the district can very well fund this $65 million requirement through these interim financings. And then we have a plan in place to replace those interim financings with permanent financings at a later date. And then on slide 3, you've seen this slide before, but there's been one good update since the January presentation. We have your current fiscal year assessed value reporting figure came in at just over 4.1%. And this is really important because when we project out our permanent financing for the GEO bond, we're projecting out no more than 3.5% per year. And so it's a great result to have actual AV that's reported come in higher than whatever you're projecting. That results in a lower tax rate to your community every year. Slide 4, please. And this now shows the preliminary structure of the Measure B interim financing. It's commonly called a bond anticipation note because you're issuing a note with the anticipation of repaying it off with a future long-term bond. So we tentatively have the issue date in late August, but this could adjust by a month or so. When you do this type of interim financing for a GEO bond, you are limited to a borrowing term of 2 years maximum. That's pretty restrictive. Most school districts in California can go up to 5 years. For healthcare districts, it's more restrictive. So if we're looking at an issuance date of August or September of 2023, we would have to find a way to repay this off by September of 2023. And then we also show on the bottom left chart, those semi-annual payments projections are showed at the bottom left. The payments from February 1, 2024 through February 1, 2025, those are the payments that are covered by your taxpayers. And then prior to August 2025 is when we would issue the GeoBond permanent financing. That would be a long-term financing, a 30+ year term, repaid over a long period of time. That fits within your tax rate limit that you provided to your voters. Next slide, please. And then slide 5 shows what that long-term repayment would look like. So if we issued in summer 2025, the payments would commence in year 2026, shown by those green colored bars in the bar chart. And now we're issuing the full Measure B authorization over a 30+ year term to repay that interim borrowing amount of $41 million plus the accrued interest that comes with that. You can see that the green bars never project to rise above the $80 per $100,000 tax rate level. We're assuming that 3.5% growth. So should we get, as the bonds continue to be paid off, if the value in your district community continues to grow above 3.5%, your community will continue to see a tax bill that's lower and lower each year. And yeah, next slide, please. And so slide 6 shows what the COP financing, that lease financing for the remaining $24 million would look like in fourth quarter 2025. And if USDA financing comes in at this time, we can compare what that rate would be versus what we could expect to issue at the public markets. So we have a lot of flexibility when I say that if we get that USDA approval. If we get the approval late this year, whatever rate is at this year, I think it's 3.75%. We can compare that to the USDA rate in 2025. It could hopefully be a lot lower. And then we can also compare those two rates with whatever the public markets could project in 2025. So we have a lot of options that way. One benefit of going the public market route, this is where we would not use USDA, but it gives us flexibility on how we can structure. A public sale would allow you to pre-fund your interest costs for up to 3 years. When I say pre-funding your interest, that means it means borrowing more than you actually need for projects, but you're paying off your interest costs so that no district operation funds are needed to pay for the first 2 or 3 years. That's a huge relief to your general fund burden. However, if you do the USDA loan, they do not allow for that pre-funding of interest, but they do allow for interest-only payments. So the trade-off is USDA, it's a little lower annual payments each year compared to a public sale. However, the payments start on an earlier time frame compared to a public sale. So it's just something that we'll have to do. Next slide, please. I think Donna did a great job going through all the requirements of your approvals. So we can go to the next steps. And today we're just here for another informational item. And then we mentioned that the underwriter review will likely ask you to approve the selection at your May 25th meeting. Over the past month or so, our firm has taken the role of sending out a request for proposals for up to 3 underwriting banks. It was Hilltop, Piper Jaffray, Raymond James, all very well-renowned, well-regarded firms in the industry. We're really looking to see if they had both USDA experience as well as healthcare experience. We summarized all of their responses, provided the information to district staff, and it seems like Piper Jaffray will become the recommended firm that we will put forth to in May. They had a very competitive fee. They have both healthcare and USDA relevant experience. The fees were actually pretty close compared to the 3 firms, but when we compared them, Piper Jaffray actually is the cheapest as well. So they're not only the most cost effective, but they have a great breadth of experience. So that will be the likely firm by your May. And then the rest of the schedule, we'll have about 2.5 months to 2 to 3 months to prepare all the legal documents. And then we'll likely come to your late July or August meeting for that resolution of issuance, either for the GeoBond or the COP. And so just, we want to just reiterate that this remains an evolving process. So we do have flexibility to swap the timing of the 2 series bonds. It might be in a circumstance where the COP makes better sense to issue this year compared to the GeoBond, given the timing of your expected COC completion date.
Great, thank you so much. There's a lot of really important information. We really appreciate your going through and reviewing the underwriters in such detail as well, and Steve, you as well.
Oh, yeah, and Steve did a great job. They, in the request for proposals, we also require that they provide reference checks as well. So Steve took a few days to call each reference and got great feedback from them as well.
Okay, any questions, comments for Jason? Thank you for coming
Good
out
job, Jason.
and
Thank you.
providing us with this information. I
Very
really
much.
appreciate it. Okay, let's see. Next up, item 16, just informational, just a copy of the letter I meant to provide to the board at our last meeting, which was the opposing letter that I was authorized to submit regarding Senate Bill 5255. And it looks like they've changed the committee hearing for that one to May 1st. And I was very interested because I was looking at the analysis that they had for this, and there's a long list of supporters. But if you look at the groups that are not supporting it, as us, we're listed on here, it's all of the small districts and a lot of other hospitals that are saying, we can't afford this. So I found that very interesting if either of you want to see it.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
So you're saying the larger facilities.
Larger
aren't objecting?
community, like organizations in large are,
Can you just say it to the public?
Sure.
What
well, it's a long list.
Well, pick a couple.
I'll pick a few. All right, let's see.
Yeah, labor unions.
Sure.
Yes, the labor unions, the American Medical Student Association, City of La Mesa, City of Linwood. There's several cities in here. There's California Professional Firefighters, something called Indivisible San Jose, whatever that is. Los Angeles Alliance for a New Economy, Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights of the San Francisco Bay Area, Los Angeles County Young Democrats, Monterey Bay Central Labor Council, Silicon Valley Rising Action, UAW Local 2865 and 5810. And so that's just a handful of the ones that are in support of now.
And that,
Any
The line- ones against.
healthcare?
that was gonna be my question. too.
You know, the interesting thing about that,
CNA?
there's the California Advocates for Nursing Home Reform, but that kind of makes sense. It's a labor. I don't see any specific, except I thought I saw one, there was a,
I think there's a
You
couple
see
of large
Merced.
healthcare organizations that are coming through their PAC.
Yeah.
That don't want to be mentioned in any way as in promoting it, but I believe there are a couple that are moving through their own PAC.
it could be, but the list that's in opposition, there are quite a few
Yeah.
in more than saying they support. So an example of the opposition, we have Alta Med Health Services, California Chamber of Commerce. I know the California Hospital Association is on here, as well as the Medical Association, as well as the Nurses Association.
CNA's opposing.
Yes. And I read part of their argument against it, and their opposed is because, it's gonna change, your RN starts here, now everyone else is starting here instead of here. Now they're not getting paid, the same sort of
Everybody
level
has
for
to
their.
bump up.
Exactly. Enloe is on here as opposing, so is Huntington Beach, Mad River Community Hospital, Mayor's Memorial. So some of the ones in Tahoe Forest Health System, some of the ones that I had sent our letter to are on here. I don't know if it made a difference. No one responded back to me directly, but they are on here, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we'll see what comes of it.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard from CHA that Governor Newsom will not sign it.
Really?
He thinks that it's, from what CHA is telling me from the local advocacy, saying that the governor believes that this is an unbaked bill, that the impact is going to go so far beyond healthcare that it's going to be a wildfire. It's just going to get out of control. So he's like, wait a minute, this is going to get out of control, especially when you see labor from all over supporting it.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is that labor's equating the pay structure to quality and availability of the workforce. And that's, I think, why Governor Newsom's looking at it going, no, it's not going to equate to any of those.
Right.
So my understanding is that he, at this point, said he will not sign that if
Okay.
it gets through.
Keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah, it's a huge impact, huge impact. So
It
thank you. for
really
letting me
is the nose under the tent.
know. Camel's nose under the tent.
Yes,
One of my favorite
exactly.
sayings, yeah.
Yeah, because if it starts with healthcare, where else does it
Everywhere else.
stop?
It will go
Because
everywhere,
it's
yeah.
Yeah.
It'll go everywhere.
And how can you, I don't think that, how can that even be legal? I wonder, to target one industry like that, but anyway. Okay, so moving on, Sean, your CEO report.
Thank you. So mine tends to be a recap to Donna's very comprehensive report as it relates to the new hospital. I bring it more a little bit internally here. The staff have been working very hard on schematic design. I can tell you, and I told the community, actually, I just made a mistake at the town hall. We have shrunk from a building that was 59,000 square feet down to 47,000 square feet. So it's 12,000 square foot delta, but we have done a really good job. Everyone's done a really good job of protecting the program. So we actually, frankly, like the new design very much more. It's good flow, nice flow for staff, really nice flow for patients. So I think that we've done a really good job of being able to get to our budget and still maintain a very nice facility, one that's going to flow very well. So big kudos to that. ALUC was a huge thing for us. I was a little bit worried about ALUC because we are the current campus and the proposed campus is under what they call the airport influence area 6, zone 6, which is one of the safety rings around the airport. We were able to get through because the existing campus, but we're even further outside of that ring or right at the edge of the ring here. So we had to discuss potential for danger and things like that. Noise was not an issue. Height was not an issue, but we were in the traffic pattern for the airport. And we had to discuss that as a committee, but fortunately they saw that a hospital is very important. We did not have another alternative, which is part of the ALUC thing, is hospitals should never be built in zone 6, except if there's not another viable alternative, and we don't have one. So that was really good. So that's moving on to Planning Commission. I really appreciate Tracy Ferguson for jumping in there with us as well, but their staff report supported approval. So that was great. Chelsea, obviously we're working on some of the more ceremonial things to this. It's kind of a moving target, but we're at least going to come up with the whole ceremony, the presence of it, what it's going to look like, who's going to be there, start to work on that so that we are able to, once we have all the logistics behind it, once we have a date, we can really move quickly on that. I think that's going to be a really big thing for the community. We're going to make it a big deal. As you can see, we're going through, our sign is up. We looked at where the fencing is going to be for the new construction site. It's going to eat that entire half of that, of our parking lot in front here. So we're already making adjustments for where staff are going to park and where patients are going to park. So we're opening up a lot more space up here, moving staff in the back. There's going to be a lot of flow changes. You can't go to the back of the clinic that way anymore. So it's going to be a two-way street over here. There's a lot of things to think about as it relates to traffic coming in. We're going to be sending out a letter to our Reynolds neighborhood. We've forewarned, if you will, Bolt to say all drivers have to be 5 miles an hour or less. They've got to creep through Reynolds because it is a residential area. So that is the main access point. We're going to be shaving off a corner here so that the trucks can get in. So there's a lot of things that are going to happen in preparation for our groundwork, which is going to be in July. So many things to do, a lot of communication to the public. But really, this is going to be a major kickoff. This is, I've spoken with the public, and they can't wait. They think that this is going to be one of those lever points for change in the basin. They really believe that this is going to be one of those anchor things that really brings change. So we're super excited for that. Legislative updates, Jerry, thank you for 525. AB 869 is in committee. AB 869 was the push to change the seismic. It was basically kicking the can down the road even further, trying to create some exemptions for single structure wood buildings. People, this is the thing where we could get a little reprieve. There's no financing involved. There is nothing in 869 that shows that there's going to be some sort of a remedy fiscally for anybody that has to build, but they're just trying to kick it down the road and, if you will, lessen the impact. But in committee, Darren Beatty from PDH was in committee, and I thought he did a really good job by saying it's irrelevant whether or not you approve a 70-year-old single story wood structure building. The infrastructure's falling apart. It can't act as a hospital. So regardless of whether the seismic thing comes into play or they give a reprieve, the argument is that these old buildings were built, during the Halliburton, and we just simply can't continue to provide good services in these. So we're still looking for relief. I think it's going to die in committee ultimately when it comes to finance. So we'll see what happens. I continue to track. Clinic centralization project is 9/10 done. It's actually, we're going to be forced to come through this building because the back can't be used anymore, really. So the centralization, if you walk through what I call a fishbowl here, where people can be received, we've actually added a third office spot there so that we can flex up, flex down, depending upon volumes. So the centralization of scheduling will occur there. The flow is starting to bake in a little bit. I think that people are starting to get used to the flow. We've done a lot of work to the clinic for how it looks when you're going down the hallway. It's much nicer than it was. So that centralization process is moving forward. It is proving to be valuable. Our turnaround times on our pre-authorizations and referrals have shrunk to 3 or 4 days versus months. Things are not getting lost. We have a group of people that do nothing but work on these pre-authorizations and these referrals. It's working well because that's their focus. That's all they do. They build relationships with insurance companies so they can get TARs and pre-authorizations. So that's good. I think the central scheduling is going to be very helpful. We're doing it for 3 doctors now, for 3 providers now, and the 4th will be added here next month.
And Sean, going back to Barbara's question before about the flow, are we still escorting people through the halls?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Yep. And we're putting our new signage up. So I think that there's going to be more of a easier wayfinding. We still want the concierge approach where we take them back, but if it's getting to the point now where they go, I know where I'm going. So we're trying to coordinate with the office to say, hey, this person is on their way back. Please meet them at the door. But we're still doing the escorting. We've decided that exiting out the back is not a good idea. About the back of the offices, it won't happen back there at all because there's no way to go. They won't be parked there. But even with Dr. Ware's office, they often have to check in and do what they call a discharge scheduling or an outbound scheduling. So they schedule the next appointment right there on their way out. Okay. So we're trying to create that. It's iterative still. We're still looking at it, very iterative, very open to suggestions. But it's starting to show.
And we're going to get the directional signage up this
Yep,
month?
it's, they were destroyed, right? Were they?
Yeah, when they took the old signage down, they
Got beat up.
They did, it got beat up. New signs have been ordered and they should actually be in Friday, if not Monday.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Great.
Part of the wayfinding in the clinic is if you haven't looked when you came in, we're putting our new sign up here in the grass. It is going to have directional signage talking about this is the walk-in, this is specialty, but it also, because we have a lot of people get lost, especially if they don't know us very well, there's going to be a large emergency sign with an arrow pointing that direction. Because we have people coming in here that it's the emergency room. And we're trying to get some better directional finding in the campus. And that'll be going up. It's going up now, actually. It'll be up by tomorrow, probably. Okay, centralization, Seneca campus updates, the Boneyard. We got our initial drawings for the Boneyard from Aspen Street Architects. We're tweaking it a little bit, but they are going to give us as-built ready to go. The Boneyard, Shelley, is it's one of our favorite things to say. The Boneyard is actually a space upstairs in the clinic that it ended up being a junkyard. It's beautiful space. So we have cleared it out, and now we're designing it so that the entire business offices can go upstairs. Those that are not front facing to patients will go upstairs. It's going to be finance. It's going to be HIM's already up there, but it's going to be all the billing, finance, pre-auth, referrals. We'll go upstairs. And then we have the ability to take a look at the bottom half of the clinic that's being used right now for more clinical activities, whether it's going to be respiratory therapy, stress, or some sort of rehab, like cardiac rehab or something like that. But I want the bottom half of the clinic to be clinic and get business upstairs. Okay, we're probably going to take it to bid because I think I need to see what it's going to cost us. But frankly, with all of the expenses that we're going to be pouring out as it relates to the new facility, we're going to have to be very, very conscientious of whether or not we can really do the build in the time frame, especially now that the owner's contribution for the next 4 months is going to be a real outlay, really taking away our reserves. So I had a conversation with Steve this morning. We just have to be really, really conscientious of any spend in the organization right now that is not operational. So
And with
capital
regards-
is going to be very low. What's
Yeah,
that?
and with regards to this project, we can perhaps look at it as an incremental bill too, instead of doing it all at one time, perhaps.
I
phase
think that
it.
we're going to be better suited if we just get all that, we do the infill at once.
Okay, just get all the plans in place, ready to go. For
Get
once
ready
we
to go,
do
get
have
it to
the
bid and
funding.
do the infill. And it can be a winter project, so if things shake up where our band comes in and we're off to the races on the new site, and we're starting to build back our reserves based on operations, we're gonna have to judge and throttle it accordingly. It can, like I say, it's an infill job, so it can be done in the dead of winter. So we'll have to just pay really close attention to it, and that kind of leads us into the whole, we're really conscientious about our capital expenditures now. We're really gonna have to button down, build revenue by volume, by doctors, and so on and so forth, and watch that reserves come back up.
And did Aspen give us an idea of how much they think it would cost us?
They
to
did
do
not,
that?
they didn't want to jump into that. No,
Especially with the way things are right now.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
just
So
curious.
we're probably gonna have to, it'll be a timing thing.
So is there any impact on the capital budget that you could share with us?
Well, just, as we allocate capital, a lot of our capital is going to be, we're going to really be taking a look at what people want versus what we need. We're going to be focusing on need now. Capital is going to be more about things are breaking, they're end of life, or they are something that we can take to the new facility. For instance, the information technology that we've invested in is something that will be picked up and moved. The technologies that we use for,
Well, we do have a capital budget.
We do.
So are we deferring some of the
Yes,
existing?
we are going to keep the allocated capital from the board as whole as possible. I don't see, quite frankly, investing any more capital because we've done some investment
Okay.
without some serious scrutiny because we just want to keep that reserve going. And so we're paying very close attention to everything. Very close. Clinic signage, I talked about that. Physician recruitment update. I don't even know how to say this anymore. We are just pulling out old stops. I've met with Chelsea. We're actually taking a different approach versus using recruiting companies. We're going to be doing our own internal activities. You will see some stuff if you haven't already that you requested something from me.
We had talked about.
We are going to take a little different approach where we're going directly at physicians down to the IP level. I think we talked about that. We have a software. So rather than just shotgunning it, we are literally going to go after certain areas that tend to be more rural. We have the ability with this technology to literally get it to their IP address. So it'll go into their inbox, not spread out through a recruiter. However, we still do have recruiters that are working for us. We do have a new female PA coming in July 3rd of all days. Her name is Heather Smith. She'll be working out of Dr. Wall's
She's starting right
office.
before the 4th.
What's that?
She's starting right before the 4th.
We talked to her about that too. We're like, but yeah, she's on contract right now until she's been a locum for a little bit, looking for a place to settle. So July 3rd, right, Chelsea? We interviewed and we're about to make an offer to another PA with 22 years family medicine experience by the name of Robert Plans. His partner decided they didn't want to do it, so they've X'd out. I got a call today from our recruiters. We have a Dr. Tarazi and a Dr. Serta that are both interested in us that they'll be putting forward. And we'll do the recruitment that we always do, which is, by the way, complimented very much when we have doctors up here. They really like the process, what we do for them. So we'll continue on. I think it's just a matter of staying in the game and just keep fighting.
And after our discussion, Rich and I talked about this a little more, and I have put some more thought into it. I have a few other ideas maybe that we can discuss too.
I'm quite at my leisure right now. I'm open to anything that is going to get more flow through here. It's a great practice. It's a great practice.
What did, let me ask, so what are you hearing is the biggest issue? with physicians?
Rural. It's the location. One will like it, one won't. So it's a partner, it's gotta be both. Schools, big issue. You know, the school system up here, they just, you know, they look into it.
Yeah, they're just.
They
trying.
look into it, and I thought it was really interesting. Our last person came in just loaded for bear. They had done a lot of research, really concerned about what the county was doing at this time. Like they found out law enforcement, you know, and what's happening there. So there's some things that we're fighting against that we don't control.
Right.
The things that we can control, though, I can tell you, we are doing a good job of being able to say, look, it's a different pace. It's a different pace here. Instead of 25 a day expected, if you get 16, we're happy. That's one every 30 minutes. That's a nice practice. We take care of all the back office. They don't have to, all they have to do is, we're going to Cerner, which is going to help. The back office is done completely, so they can be doctors. They can get here and be a doctor. They don't have to do a lot of back office gobbledygook. So it's a nice practice. It's a nice area. It's finding that. It's finding those doctors that like this lifestyle, love this lifestyle, want to practice. So, and as you know, I know you know, there's a huge shortage.
Oh.
It's just a ridiculous shortage. So we're fighting for everyone that comes in and sniffs around. Yeah.
We're excited about Heather though.
Yeah, I think Heather, yeah, she's gonna come up here and establish, and
That's great.
we do need a female practitioner, another one.
For a rental.
So where does she come?
Was that?
She's looking for a rental.
Looking for a rental.
Okay.
Where does Heather come from?
She was in Lancaster for a very long time. She worked actually with her father, who was a physician, internal medicine doctor. And then she went off to Tennessee and she's done some locums, and she's just like, the locum thing's not my gig. So I want to settle down.
Good. Glad she chose us.
Yeah. So we'll keep doing
She's gonna
it.
take over Wall's practice or like?
So she's going to work with Dr. Walls in his office, but I think that's Dr. Walls' intention, is to flow his practice over to her.
He
Yeah.
was very complimentary about her.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And really looking forward to working with her, so.
So there's that. I can tell you the one thing that worries me a little bit is the supervision of our mid-levels. As we start to get more mid-levels in here, we have one physician that cannot do that, and Dr. Walls is doing all the supervision. So I'm going to have a conversation with him eventually to say, hey, rather than just jump out of medicine, how about if you do some chart review, which we pay for, and perhaps I'd love to see him as the director of the long-term care, because he's very good at that stuff.
Yes.
So do you want all the way out, or do you want to keep your toe in? I mean, so conversations that we need to have with him.
Well, hopefully you'll decide the latter.
Right. But, yeah, we continue. And the big one is the snow's melting.
I noticed it was in red.
Snow is melting,
Finally.
and it's melting fast too. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Questions for Sean? Anyone?
Nope.
Okay,
Great.
thank you, Sean. Appreciate it.
Next one's me too. Yeah.
Let's see. Yep, it is you two.
Is it me, or do you want to
It is
introduce the
you.
board retreat? We've
Creative
been talking about
thinking.
that for a while, the team building.
Well, we can get, we're not quite there yet, I don't think, are we? Or did I?
Well, I want to bring to the board that we've been working on
Yeah, let's.
a team building / board retreat for what now? 2 years, been trying to get it on the schedule. I was at a conference in Sacramento, and this lady, Karma Bass, did a 4-hour session. And had I known that board members were invited, I would have loved to have invited you to this. She facilitated an outstanding board retreat, what a board is, what a board does, how they interact. And I thought it was excellent. I think that she would be an outstanding person to consider for a moderator. Keep us on track and really help us out. So.
And Rich, you had some thoughts around the content for the session.
Yeah, I think the goal of us getting together, we have 2 new board members. We have major projects in process. We have relatively new administration. I'm not quite sure that the team building thing, whoops,
Didn't even know I had it with me. Now that I'm retired.
you're not retired.
I think you're
The question I have is, do we really need a moderator? We need for us to all understand what's going on in healthcare. We need to get an understanding of the history of this place so we don't repeat some of the mistakes we've made in the
Yeah.
past. And I'm not quite sure we need to have a third party involved.
As far as the style of the retreat is really up to you all. I just want to say that after meeting her, if we want a moderator, and the thing that she did really well was she explained what a board, how a board interacts with both the community, how a board interacts with administration. I mean, we do a pretty good job here, but I thought I picked up some nuggets from her presentation that I was like, wow, there you
It
go.
sounds like you could be the moderator.
No, we can't.
He has to participate in the process.
Yeah, no.
It's hard to. be the
Well, I think
moderator.
we'll all participate in the process.
So we don't have to have
I
a
mean, we
moderator.
have someone who understands county government. I've been on the board for a long time, experienced nursing
Yep.
leaders. I mean, I see us all having a share.
So I don't think, if you don't want a moderator, great. I'm just saying if you do, we should consider Karma.
I'm not suggesting we don't want one. I'm suggesting we talk about it.
Okay, yep, sure. Great.
Yeah, good question, if we really need one. I guess the big thing on determining that would be to look at exactly what do we want to accomplish.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then based on, is that something we think we can control ourselves to do ourselves, or do we need somebody to control us?
And remembering that this will be a public meeting as well.
Right.
So,
And I only brought a moderator forward because there was discussion about a moderator in the last few
There was.
discussions about the retreat. So I just put it up there because I thought she was just outstanding at what she did. There it is, or not.
So I'm thinking, see if you guys agree, that we come back at our next regular meeting with putting some thoughts around, maybe put the top 3 things that you think that we should be, including or doing as part of the session. And maybe we can talk about it more in detail and see if we agree on what approach we want. And then maybe we can decide if we need a facilitator or moderator.
Great.
Do you think that sounds reasonable?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Good.
Thank you. And let's go back one more, Sean, the change of venue, number 18.
Oh, yeah, so it was brought to my attention that, we've been struggling a little bit with our venue. If it's here in the LAC, we've got to set up, we don't have really good AV here. It's a little, the table it's hard to see and get around. So Wes Scott, who is in the cemetery, he's the director of the cemetery now in Chester, invited me over to the old courthouse. The old courthouse is not being used. Now, my understanding it's not the county's, it's part of the
Correct.
courts.
It belongs to a court.
But without saying it on record, I recommend that we're squatters. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't say it. But it is literally not used. And when we went in there, it was, there's an audience that faces a table where the board can sit and face the audience. I thought it was a really nice venue versus this round table trying to work it out. I think we've been struggling. We've been using different venues and none of them have really worked. So I was thinking, if you wanted to go over there and take a look at this and we could talk to the courts, it's not being used, it does have power. I would probably recommend that we talk to other boards where they're having trouble with their meetings as well, maybe, to find out if we all want to invest in an AV system or something that allows us to do a Zoom with a little bit of ease. Now, Sherry, I'm really interested in your perspective because I didn't realize that it actually belongs to the state of California court system.
Right.
It's
Well,
not county.
here's the deal. I think that the local courts would, be real amenable to getting rid of it. When Judge Kaufman was still here,
Yeah.
he had approached me on selling it to the county for $1. But what it is, it's almost like a condo. And the county owns the building.
Right.
The court owns the courtroom, and I think it's 2 of the offices
Yeah, the judge's
that are on the
office,
right
yeah.
as you come in. The rest of it is county offices, like where Wes is and the sheriff, and there used to be a building department in that corner. So it's this cooperative maintenance thing and everything else. I think if it was something we wanted to do, I'd approach the local folks on a lease agreement. Something that makes sense and covers them liability wise if somebody falls down and gets their head on the table or something like that. But I've had, over the years, numerous meetings in there. And it is a really nice facility as far as, like you said, accommodating an audience in that it has the seating. And then it's just set up like a courtroom. You go through the rail and there's a table.
Where is it?
It's,
Sheriff's office.
you know where the sheriff's office is?
Okay.
It's that building.
Okay.
Their office is in the side of it. And if you go around, you see the steps. I think before we would do much, excuse me, we'd want to get on the county about paving.
Yeah.
Because
it's very choppy.
Yeah.
It is dangerous. And I kept telling them, you know, somebody is gonna fall in one of those holes, especially in the dark, you know, at evening events or something. And we're really gonna have a problem because it's horrible. And now it's worse than it ever was.
Yeah, it's pretty beat up.
So that would be the other thing is the liability to the district of, you know, having a big public gathering.
So just,
creating a nuisance.
just brought it forward to say that this is available to us. If the board directs me to look into it, I'll probably form a little consortium of folks that have board meetings to say, because they're all kind of struggling with where they go.
Mhm.
And see if
Technically,
we can't do it together.
as you know, with ALUC, the conference room at the airport that they lease out and have big meetings in, they're not supposed to hold public meetings in that proximity to the
To
airport.
the airport, right? Nothing, no large gatherings.
So, I mean, they've been told that and, you know, people have changed and they keep forgetting it, but they're really not supposed to be doing
Because
that.
it's in zone 3, which is the danger
Well,
zone.
and it goes back to the days of the Farrell ice cream parlor accident.
That's where I have it.
But, so they're not supposed to be there. But that means that all the people that do use it would be looking at maybe something else.
So CPUD and everybody else that uses it.
Yeah.
The only
Okay.
question I would have is, what value do we assign to actually, I mean, we want the public to feel like they're part of the
Yeah.
district. So when they come on campus and they're here, there is that feeling that this is the healthcare district, this is the
Mhm.
facility. Where if they're going over there, it's more like a town hall feeling,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So I'd say we need to look at bringing people here has some kind of a value. I definitely think it does. And,
Especially as the construction.
right. And as opposed to somewhere else, but then, like I say, it's such a big venue.
Yeah. it's
And I
excellent.
do know, I see we struggle with camera angles and.
Yeah.
But if we are gonna invest in equipment anyways, we invested in equipment for this one.
Yeah, why don't we do
Good
that?
point,
for
good
this
point.
We could, you know, I would like to see somehow if we could fit, you know, us across this way so that we could face the
Yes.
audience. I'd love to invest in this one if this is what we want. I just brought it up because I thought when I went to the venue, I'm thinking, wow, really great
Mhm.
venue. And I'm sure there's more than one entity, more than one board that's struggles with the way that they conduct their meetings. So I thought I'd just pop it up there if you wanted to research it. If not, if you want us to change the way this looks and get this together so it's ours forever and we somehow put all of our board members across this way, maybe on the sides we put the CEO or whatever. So I'm happy to get that go to.
Well, and actually, that's a layout most people are used to
Yeah.
when they come into a meeting.
They're all board are all lined up.
Almost all agencies have the board lined up and staff adjacent.
This room's also been configured as a
Maybe a
U
U,
Mhm.
too.
like
in the
the board of
past.
supervisors.
The Board of Supervisors is used it
Yeah.
for that reason, but then Lassen County, most all of the counties, Butte County, you know, are more
Straight.
straight across with staff at desk down the side.
Should we try to
What do you think,
reconfigure this room a little bit then to accommodate that?
I think there's value in having it here.
Okay.
So people can come and see what's exciting.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah, we used to get a pretty good crowd.
Yeah, all we gotta do is say we're gonna cost some money. And we'll have a good turnout.
I
Like
welcome the
everything.
community, you know, obviously I try to keep us out of hot water. That's my job, is to keep us out of hot water with the community and so that we don't, so our board meetings are really productive.
Well,
So
maybe-
far, we've done okay.
Sorry, I was gonna say, maybe we start with kind of some ideas for how to reconfigure this room
Okay.
first. Is that?
Chelsea, you want
Did
to,
you guys-
we'll chase that down?
sound good?
Okay. But we have to be able to reconfigure it to staff.
Yeah, so that's the other
conferences
challenge,
too.
is they have to rearrange it for us and then arrange it another way
Yeah,
for
because we do all of our big
the
staff
daily
meetings in here.
use and.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the
And
challenge.
since
I'll do
we
that.
don't have a capital budget anymore.
No, it's just a little.
It's on pause.
Rich is not letting go of that.
It's gotta be necessary. Okay. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, it looks like we're on to you, Judy, for your CNO report.
Okay, pretty short report this month. My usual COVID updates, our Plymouth County level remains low, although locally, about 2 weeks ago, we did see a little warming up of COVID in our community. I believe we only saw one very short hospitalization as a result of that, and it seems like it's just calmed right back down again. So I don't know if it was just because the sun came out, we didn't know what to do. But the federal emergency, declaration of emergency ends on May 11th. And so right now we have come up with our masking rules, and we are following suit, and we have polled many other hospitals to see how they're managing the masking. So when we did have that little blip, we did go back to masking for a while until we felt that things had calmed back down, and we've gone back to, we will consider masking based on low, medium, and high levels in the county, unless the end of the federal declaration gives us new rules to contend with, and we'll let you know what those new rules are. Let's see, Cerner project, Brian Churchill will be giving us a report. You know that we pushed out the Cerner go live date to June 5th. It would have been this week. And this has been really a great thing to have a little bit more time for our teams to work through their different modules. We also had identified some additional equipment we needed as far as like workstations on wheels for the nursing staff and laboratory staff. So those are currently on order. So this has given us a little more breathing room to tighten up things where we had a lot of kinks left. And it would have been a rough start. So we believe the June 5th go live will be a much smoother. We know it's going to be rough. But it'll be a lot smoother.
Why is it gonna be rough?
Because it's an electronic health record.
Oh.
Enough said.
That's it.
I mean, I've been involved in 2 other go lives through my nursing career. You know, it's everyone staring at their computers, kind of frozen. You see the lots. You see a lot of backs of people. It just takes a lot of time to get that muscle memory, but it will be ultimately such an improvement.
Are you gonna have roving like Cerner coaches?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah,
we went live.
Did you go from a Cerner?
Yes, yes.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Great.
I've gone live with Meditech and Epic, and they're all painful, regardless of how much planning and preparation you have. So that we've been reassured that many of the folks that we've been working with throughout this entire project will stay with us, even with us having to move the go live date. So that's reassuring.
Are they building on your reports for you too?
Yes, there's a lot of, there's hundreds of canned reports, and then we're building a few custom.
That was the issue that we ran into.
Yeah, and also really just understanding what's already out there, because it does take time to go through the library and see what's already been built, and a lot of it's going to be there. It's just a matter of exploring it.
Yeah, we have our DA2 training next week, so our dedicated DA2 report writer database, so they can write across the database, be trained. So we can do custom reporting as well.
Then you gotta figure out what you wanna do with all that data. So that'll probably be about a year from now before we figure all of that out. New critical access hospital, Donna touched on, that we're now in design development. Our schematic design is basically done. There are 3 departments that still need to sign off this week, and that's OR, the emergency room, and actually skilled nursing has signed off. So making sure there's no additional tweaks, and that's just talking about the layout, the real estate for each department. And so then today we started the medical equipment planning, which we did once before on the old design. Now we're going back through every single piece of equipment, and I'm talking down to every sharps container, every trash can, making sure that we can fit everything in that we think we need in the new space that we've now created through design. So that was all day today with various departments, and we go all day tomorrow with the rest of the departments. And it's really good because it allows our teams to, you know, we're talking about capital equipment. You know, what have we actually purchased in the last year since the last time we went through this? And there's been a few items, and making sure that those get into all of our documents. And then also, we know what we need. It forces the teams to look at what I have and what I can take, or what will need to be replaced sometime before we move into the new building. But it's a very high level of detail to think about and plan for. And then, you know, what will be, it also shows us what probably will be a capital outlay sometime in the next 3 years.
That's a great exercise. I'm sure it's very time consuming,
It is
it
very
sounds
time
like, but it
consuming.
sounds like it's a really,
We were doing
good
doors
one to
and
do.
locks and access the other day. I thought I had a tumor. It was so detailed, because you have to think about ingress, egress, emergency, cops, firefighters. And I'm telling you, that was arduous work. Badging in, coding in, how do we do that?
How
Key
to go
entry.
on lockdown, which
You go on
doors need
lockdown.
to be keyed, which ones are badge, who gets that
Just-
access,
It's,
where the cameras are going to be.
Yeah.
And so that was just stage one
Fun.
of that.
fun stuff.
So then, going forward, we'll be able to much more easily keep track of end of life for our equipment, right?
Very
And
much so.
So our capital planning, that was always Rich's favorite, should become a lot more detailed, but a lot easier to do, right?
Jerry, my expectation is that we have a running inventory.
Yeah, that's where I'm
And
getting
we look
at.
at our inventory over the span of its life.
Mhm.
So we should be able to look at year 5. This has a life cycle of X. This is end of life. This is, you can't replace parts. You should be able to look down there and go, these are the 19 things in 2020, whatever, that we have to replace. That's what I'm used to seeing.
And what are we gonna use to track that?
What's that?
What do we have?
There's
a tool to
systems out
track
there, but
that?
it's a simple spreadsheet, frankly.
Okay.
It just has to be updated.
And this actually provides us kind of a living document,
Mhm.
which we don't, I mean, Linda McCurdy actually has a lot of this information. It's all here, and she has it in her files. But the one thing that I'm really enjoying about the way the staff is approaching this, for instance, we have some lab equipment that was maybe from the 80s. It's still absolutely perfectly good and still supported. So it's not like they're asking for the world. They're being very, very practical about what can go in, understanding that if it becomes end of life or we can't find service on it anymore, then that would be a reason to replace it. But I think it's an excellent exercise.
Yes, and we have been doing, like we've been doing replacements of things that we can transport over. Our new Hill-Rom beds, those are going. So we felt good about investing in our financial position now, knowing that it comes off the budget list for the building and we slide it right over. So we've been doing some stuff that we know will take with us.
So we'll begin having vendor days coming up, beginning in about 2 weeks. So we will be inviting various vendors. For instance, in the OR, we will invite such people as Stryker, Skytron, some of the big names, but again, with the eye to, have they been good to us? Do we have Stryker here and have they been good to Seneca as serviceability and that sort of thing?
Standardization,
Mhm.
no deviation, standardize. If we're gonna get certain gurneys or certain things, let's standardize. Let's make sure that, so everyone knows how they work. So we can train to them. So.
Regulatory, we did have a drop-in survey a couple of weeks ago for a self-reported fall in our skilled nursing, and there were no findings. We've received the final report on And our auxiliary wish list items were approved by Seneca Auxiliary. And so I've listed what was approved, and we have moved forward with the acquisition of those. And then once we receive them, we'll submit our invoices to the auxiliary for repayment. So, and that's all I have, unless you have any questions.
Any other questions?
Nope, thank you.
I want to thank the auxiliary very much for this. This is amazing. If we're sending a card to them, I'd love to sign it.
Yes, not only a card, each department that was awarded an item is actually sending out a letter of thanks. And then we will have our auxiliary appreciation luncheon on June 14th here in this room. So, and you will be reminded of that if you would like to attend.
Yes, thank you.
That's all I have.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, next up we have
Brian?
Brian.
Brian, you want to do a quick update?
Sure, I'll do a quick update. John and Judy have updated you. We're going to take this opportunity to do our own internal testing, which we're going to have the users do the testing and the super users act as they will during support when we go live. So, it's unfortunate we had to push, but we're going to make good use of this time, and it should help with the go live at the beginning of June.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Brian? Sorry, Brian, I think most of your thunder was taken.
That's okay. I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. See you
All right,
later.
thank you.
Bye.
All right, next up we have our departmental reports. We have our IT report. I didn't think I saw the HR report. Did I miss it?
She's on.
Yeah, she's on leave, right?
So.
It says report, oh, she did submit the additions and deletions, I see now, okay. Thanks for that, Corey.
The newsletter was written prior to our push, so it says, soon to go live. Great.
Yeah, somehow I missed this part in my packet. I'll have to go back and review it. And then it looks like, let's see, Chelsea has her report. Chelsea, did you have anything you wanted to add about your report?
No, unless there's any questions.
It was very comprehensive, thank you. I appreciate all the reports from our staff. It makes it very easy to know what's going on and not guess. Board members, any questions or comments on any of the reports?
No. I mean, what you just said, I really appreciate it, because it does give us a feel for what you're up against every day.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. Okay, and I guess with that, we will adjourn to closed session. Want to take 10 minutes? And I don't know if we ever got Ryan on. No?
Not sure, no.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yes. Now.
All right, closed session is closed. We're back in open session. There were no reportable actions taken during closed session. For our next special board meeting, that will be on May 4th at 11 a.m. here in the conference room. We will be, in addition to doing the CEQA review, we will also do the oath of office for our new board member, Shelley, at the beginning of the meeting. And for our next regular board meeting, that will be on May 25th at 3 p.m. here in the conference room. And we will be adding items to that agenda, discussion about a potential 5K run for Labor Day, the investment policy review, board self-evaluation process and question review, as well as the CEO evaluation process and question review. We received some information from ACHD that we might want to use for this process. And also board member education team building. And anything else anyone else wants to add? Okay, thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Oh, goodness.